So Bubba asked me to sit down and tie DMC Rat for everybody. This is our version of it. There's a few versions out there, but we'll get started. We're going to use a 28 millimeter Flyman big game shank. We love these shanks. Yeah, they're a little pricey, but guess what? They're worth the price. They're good quality. So we're just going to lock that in the vise good. Get a few wraps on that. And we're going to lay down a nice super glue, because if you get enough glue in there, your fly will never fall apart. Yeah, let's get a bunch of wraps on there, really lock that thing down good. You can do this on a hook. I don't like to throw this rat with a big double hook. We're gonna go, the longer the tail you want, 2, 2.5, 3 body or tail shank lengths. It's up to you. I like a little longer tail, but throw this right on top. Just lock it in, and a couple wraps. That super glue is still wet, so it's gonna hold it. Now I'm gonna stand up the hair. This last little piece I leave on there. The rest of this middle section I'm gonna trim out. Good hair scissors help. Loon's great. Don't have to make it perfect, but just a little bit of, just to give that tail a kick. Now I'm gonna put all this back out of the way, and I am gonna tie in my tail wrap, or my tail wrap. So I'm gonna tie it in just the front of it. Okay, and I like to tie it in with the fur going back, so when I wrap my body, my hair lays down. If you wrap it the other way, the hair all stands out and you get this big puff ball, which, if that's the aesthetic you're going for, more power to you. So I'm just gonna grab some extra thick craft foam. This is just Hobby Lobby stuff. And I'm just gonna 45 the corners and just tie it in on top. Just kind of loose it first and then kind of lock it down. This is just to give your fly a little more flotation. If you want your rat to really sit low, you could leave the tail foam off and just put the foam on the front shank or the front hook. So I'm gonna wrap it forward, and I'm gonna stop back somewhere in here. And I'm just gonna chop it off straight across. And I'm gonna tie almost kind of like a beetle on this, because the front of this is kind of tricky to get the rabbit to wrap around clean. So now we're ready. We're gonna start with just a single wrap, no glue, nothing yet. And then I'm gonna put glue. Oh, almost forgot. I'm gonna throw a couple wraps over the body, just to compress it a little bit, not too much. Makes it easier to wrap. It does mess with the floaty a little bit. Now I'm just gonna put some gel super glue, not too much, just all over the foam. And we're gonna wrap. Trying to keep our previous wrap out of our next wrap. Can be a trick. If you get some under it, doesn't matter. Actually, it'll probably help the hairs hold in place. We're just gonna keep wrapping till we get all the way to the front. And that little groove we tied right in the front here, that really helps that sit nice and snug in there. Oop, broke my rabbit. Good thing I was at the end. Gonna make one more wrap over, and then we're gonna do 2 wraps in the front. Come here. Pull on that a little bit. Okay, and cut out a little bit of extra we had. We're just gonna couple wraps on top of that. Okay, we got our skirt. Just gonna grab 4 to 5 strands of black skirt. That's 5. Just gonna find the midpoint and tie it in. we're just gonna, I like it off the top. You can make it go off the bottom. I like it off the top because then it makes the legs flare better. So gonna get some wraps on top here. So clean this up and give it a whip finish. You know, this fly is a great pond fly. People don't realize how many rats live around the water. Levees, around Discovery Bay, all those rental houses. Guess what? When people rent houses, they don't clean up after themselves, and it attracts vermin like rats and mice. Oh, did I give you one of my spots? I fished this fly, huh? So I'm just gonna get a little bit of Sally on this front head. Just really want to seal this up nice, and you know, clear nail polish is the way to go. Just get the top coat, the lacquer one. It seems to be a little harder. Bubba wanted a photo. Okay, so we're gonna take the head off and set it aside. We're gonna grab our 3/0. I like these Bass Pro, these XPS straight shank hooks. They're a good hook, but they have one little thing that really hurts for deer hair. These little spikes right here. I don't know if you guys can even see them, but to get rid of them, you just grab them with pliers and just twist the hook. If you don't get rid of these, when you go to put your Kevlar on and you start spinning your deer hair, it will blow up. I did it once tonight already. I'm sure Bubba will show the video when he edits it. But we're gonna lock this in, and I'm gonna go down to my second groove on this because I really want to lock this hook in. And I'm gonna really lock it in. I don't want that going anywhere because we got a lot of work to do on it. So now we're just gonna, a few wraps in, drop that. Of course, get our base layer of super glue, because you get enough glue, your fly will never fall apart. And then we're just gonna wrap. Come on. These long shank hooks are great for poppers, anything. Oop. Okay, so we're gonna get us some 50-pound monofilament for our weed guard. And my lighter. I'll put a little ball on here just to help it stay. And then I'm just gonna wrap that right on top. There's a little bit of super glue on there already. Wrap to the back here. Put another little dribble of super glue. There we go. Okay. So next we need our articulation wire. I like this main line. It's a 30-pound test. It's a 1x7 step stainless. So it's a braided cable, not just a solid stainless cable. So let's tie it in on this side. Get a few wraps in it. This thing is never going to get pulled on too hard, but I don't want it to ever come loose. Kick that up a little bit. We're going to get us a silver bead. Ooh, I'm just gonna sneeze from the rabbit. Put this on there. And then we get our tail segment. So we gotta find our top. You kind of feel it and go, oh, there it is. We wanna put it in with the top up. So one of the tricks when doing this tail is when you feed it back to your bead, if you were to come to this side, your body would lay sideways. So if you were to come on both sides of the hook, your body, but if you put everything on this side, so everything is off to one side, it allows it to sit up straight. And your articulation, when done, I'm doing that weird, let's flip that, will all be on this far side of the hook. Yeah, it does pull your body over towards this way a little bit, but you're never going to be able to tell when the fly is done, and it really helps keep that tail up nice. Another trick is you can tie the wire in on top, but since we have a weed guard, you kind of can't do that. So now I'm just going to nip off a little bit. I like to stagger that a little bit, just to give me a ramp to work with. And I'm just going to run over it back to the back here. when you're on the back where you cut that, you really need to be careful you don't cut your thread, because that stuff is sharp. But I like to cover it and hide it completely, because I would hate my fly line or leader to get in there and something. So I'm just gonna put a little more super glue on that and use my finger there, and that is never gonna come apart. I don't have to worry about it. Put a little bit more on the front of it, and you just give it a couple more wraps. And that is my bulletproof articulation. I trust that to pretty much anything I fish for. Okay, so now we're gonna grab our front section wrap. We don't need a tail this time, so we're just gonna tie it in directly. And we're gonna come back just a little bit before articulation. You don't have to come off the back of the hook too far. Okay, we're gonna get our foam again. Cut our 45s. Get us a little bit of glue right on top to, once again, hold the fly together. I'm not a fly tire, I'm a fly gluer. We're just gonna wrap that. You can see, come back quite a bit more. There we go. Now I'm gonna come forward. And, well, I took the barb off, but I want to come just about to where that first barb was. A little bit further back ain't gonna hurt. Fold forward. Same thing. Cut it off. Give it a little head like a beetle. Couple wraps around the body just to shape it up a little bit. I'm not trying to compress it any. And then we're gonna come in front. So now we're gonna get a wrap around the back here. And this first wrap, once again, I'm going to do it without glue. And then I'm going to start putting, the front body's a little harder because you got a lot of tail material around. And so just going to try and wrap that as best I can here. There it goes. It can be tricky to get it to transition up onto the foam, but once it's up there, then it's just wrapping a body. Okay. Now we can start adding a little more. Once again, just wrapping, wrapping, wrapping. Like I said, the front, you don't need to hide the foam too much. The deer hair is going to really hide that. Oh, it's itchy. I could never raise rabbits, people. So I'm just trying to tie that in without losing too much. There you go. So you can see that there's a little bit of the foam is visible in spot, but once I get the deer hair on here, you'll never notice. So now we need our front set of legs. Grab our skirt again for, if you did 5 in back, you do 5 in the front. I think that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, 6. We had a hitchhiker. Okay, find our midpoint. Tie it in on both sides. Now, like I said, I like it over the top. And you can see it just V's over the top here. Not the most graceful, pretty thing, but it doesn't need to be. Okay. So now, make sure they're coming out right. To get them out of the way. Clothespin. Wrap this up, and these can get unruly, so I like a clothespin back here, and it'll just keep everything, all my legs out of the way here, if I can get them all together. So I put it right over the articulation. It'll stay nice and steady. Can do a little saliva layback, get the weed guard out of the way for now. Close this off. Okay. So we're going to switch to our Kevlar now. We're just going to lay it on a couple of wraps. So, make fun of my deer hair spinning. I am no expert at all, but it works in the end. So, I'll wrap back here and get that nice and smooth. And we're going to get our deer. I think this is even elk. It doesn't matter. It's hair. It'll spin. It looks good. So we're just going to grab our first clump. It'll take probably 2 to 3 clumps to do this head. And it's however much you're comfortable spinning at a time. I can get a pretty good pencil. Some people just can stack. I am no expert at this. Go watch lots of other people on YouTube. So this stuff is extra furry, but it really does do a good job. So now I'm gonna stack it right on top. 2, 3 wraps and let it spin and stack. A couple extra spins there. And we get our loom tool. This thing is really great about pushing that stuff back. But one thing you want to watch, support your hook and push against it. Because if you start cranking on it right now, you'll snap your hook off in your vise. And then you have a really beautiful souvenir keychain, I guess. Yeah, cat toy, I guess somebody said. We're gonna, ooh, a little bit of green snuck in there. A little bit of glue just to kind of keep everything back. And once again, put enough glue, it ain't coming apart. Okay, so we're gonna get our stack again. You can use a hair stacker if you want. I don't think I need it. I like a little jaggedy, rougher head. So get our next pencil out and comb it out. At any point I can blow this up and maybe will be watching me cry. I hate that. But we're gonna put our next stack right in front. Somewhere toward the middle of it. 2, 3. Oop. 2, 3. Pull tight. Let it spin. If you're like me, help it out. There it goes. Finally. Once again, use our stacker. Remember to push back against it. We got a little mini stack to go. And some would say this is probably good enough. Just leave it. I like to fill the hook. So I'm just going to grab a little bit, not much, just a few hairs, just to fill in. And comb it out. Always comb it out. It helps it spin so much better if there's not a lot of that dander under fur in there. I'll hold it back as best I can. Stack on there. 1, 2, 3. Let it spin. Help it out. There we go. Pull it a couple times. Push it back with my fingers. Try and get the thread in front. If that doesn't work, use the loom tool. Push it back. Then you can get it in front. Once you're in front, just get a couple of wraps and then some half hitches here. I'm going to add a lot of super glue to the nose of this thing, so half hitches are really all you need. And I do an excessive amount. If they start coming undone, I guess add more glue. Ow. I got a cut on the back of my finger, guys, from pulling a fish. Okay, gonna cut that. There's your head. So I'm just gonna get my double edge razor here. These are Rite Aid brand. They work. They're not the best. There's better blades out there, but they work. I'm just going to shave my belly flat. Little bit of curve to the blade. I don't know. Probably about, like that. But I'm going to shave it pretty flat. And try and keep my legs out of the way. You don't want to cut those. But you don't want to leave too much on the belly. And that'll help the fly right itself too. Okay, belly's cut. Top, I kind of cut at a pyramid shape. So I do kind of a straight razor, little bit of a curve, and I just come back, and then for the top, I just really curve the razor over, and I just shave. And then just kind of clean it up. And here she is. So if you really want to clean the nose up, let's take a lighter to it. So now I'm going to get some liquid super glue, and I'm going to wet this whole area, including the deer hair. You don't want to do this if it's black hair. Use good head cement, something that penetrates really well. Okay, so we're going to get our ears. We got our two little ears. We just kind of cut a oval shapey out. Doesn't need to be perfect. They don't care. I have never seen a bass refuse a fly because it didn't like its ears. So we're just going to get a little bit of gel super glue. Just kind of put a little bit in there. Close it and pinch it together like that. Okay. And then we're going to stick it down in the deer hair here. But we need to trim just a little bit. I like to do a nice 45 degree on it. And then I will separate the deer hair. I don't know if you guys will see that, but I'm gonna pull that deer hair apart. Let's get the skirt. We're done spinning the hair. We can get rid of this because I want the legs out of the way. I don't want to get glue on them. So I'm gonna split the top here. Kind of put my finger in there. I'm gonna get a little bit of glue right on there, a little bit extra actually. And I am going to stick that in behind the deer hair and then let it spring up. And I'm going to kind of push that deer hair back into the extra gel super glue I laid in there. So that side's done. Get this side, do the same thing. A little bit of gel super glue. Oh, come on, don't bend that direction. There. We're just going to pinch it until we get a nice ear. We're going to trim it up. Same thing. I'm just going to get a little bit of super glue on it. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to part the hair as best I can. And I'm going to stuff that in there. Ooh, get in there right. And believe it or not, I haven't had an ear fall off yet. If you really are worried about one, you can put a little bit of the liquid super glue right in the base of that deer hair right there and kind of push it down on it. And that's going to stay forever. Well, who knows? It's the best I can do. So we're going to get a couple of 8mm eyes. Anybody need 8mm eyes, let Bubba know. He has got a pile of them laying around here. So I got my two eyes. And once again, I'm just going to take a little bit. See ya. Clean up a little spot I saw. Take a little bit of gel super glue, put it on there. Come around, just drop that eye right into that gel super glue. Now you can use epoxy on the eyes. Another good one is E6000 clear. That'll hold forever. That's probably better than gel super glue. It just takes so long to dry. And for my own personal flies, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we got our eyes in. Now we got to do our weed guard. So we can pop that out of the vise a minute and separate our legs out, get everything figured out. And I'll set it back in here with the weed guard through the vise. So now I'm just gonna look, get a nice into it, and now I'm going to give it extra. The extra is for attaching it. So the bottom of the deer hair is kind of porous, so I want to get a nice goo ball on the end of this, and then I'm going to press it right into the deer hair, and I'm going to use my fingernails and I'm going to push it in there. Okay, so now it's in there. Nice. Close that off. There. Okay. So it's in there. It's pretty solid in there now. But to really anchor it, I'll take a little bit of the Loon, the liquid flow, put it all around it. That's going to soak into that deer hair real good. And that's going to help lock it. And I'm going to do a second coat. Straighten out these legs while I do it. Okay. Do this little second coat here. Cure that. And that is going to be golden. Little hair I saw. That's the best way to clean up hair. Get some different angles on that. Really get it cured up. Okay. So now, pull our legs all forward here. Get this figured out. Put it back in here to hold it. And I typically try to cut all my legs off in a group. It may not be as perfect. I haven't seen a problem with it yet. So there you go. That's our version of a DMC Rat. It's got a nice articulated tail. It really does move in the water. It's a great little slider. Okay, thank you.